welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I'm co-host Nessa.
And I am co-host Drew.
Today,
today is a
popular topic.
very popular topic. I guess to start off, if you haven't seen it already, we're gonna let you know that Morgan Rielly did not appreciate Ridley Grieg's slapper into the empty net, and I guess he decided the best course of action was to cross-check the dude in the face, which, as we know, cross-checking is a penalty, and doing it to the face is you just decided that it's not enough to just shove this guy. You've got to make sure that you could potentially injure him in some fashion. And I guess maybe let's just start out with initial reactions. Who wants to go first?
So I came late to this party last night because I've been busy, but when I was catching up on socials, it was really interesting to see all the different reactions on the tweeters. First of all, I don't like this play, as nobody should, but I did see a lot of Leafs fans defending Morgan Rielly. Their excuse was that, if he didn't do anything, then you guys would be complaining that the Leafs never have a reaction when something like this happens. I can see that point of view, but you shouldn't be defending that he cross-checked this guy in the face. But that's what they're defending. It's like, I don't see anything wrong with it. If anything, Grieg or whatever, he broke the code, which is like the dumbest thing. Hockey culture is so... I don't know how to describe this.
Hurl anytime code is brought in. I just want to find a bucket and hurl.
It's so want to yeet the code out of here.
It's like some playground bullshit.
Yes.
That's what I think about when someone brings that up.
It's like not even high school politics. It's like elementary school style politics. Like, you scored a goal on my empty net, but you didn't just score any goal. You wound up like it was a big time slap shot, and now it's on me to put my stick in your teeth, because that's what our little for funsy rule dictates, is that I do. Like, what?
I can understand why the Leafs fans were upset. If I was a Sharks fan and I was really into the game, I'd be irritated as hell if the opposing team slap-shotted it into the net. I get that. But to defend what Rielly did, I do not condone violence.
And there's 1,001 ways to respond to that doesn't involve putting your stick in the guy's face, right? Like, he could have went over there and gave him a good shot into the boards. But the craziest thing, I think, is I've seen people are breaking down this in slow motion, and they're like, but the first contact is his arm, and it rides up into his face. And I'm like, what? No.
And then he lets go of the stick, and then this and
right.
that.
It was all unnecessary. He could have come over there and gave him a little shove. Understandably, we'd all be irritated for somebody to take that kind of a slap shot on our team's empty net. But come on, with the excuses.
This emotional game.
Right. Oh my God.
I saw a shot with a different angle. It's not the side one, but more like the front one. And it looks worse in that angle. His whole neck looks like it bends so awkwardly. Okay, yeah, I'm done. What's your take?
So I tweeted that I sent this to a couple of my friends, and we were just kind of laughing about it. And one of my friends said, to be honest, I would have done that too, but saying in a reaction of hey, don't do that to the empty net. It just seems unnecessary. We're not condoning cross-checking him to the face, but as Drew said, you'd be hey, shove him or something, like what the hell? But you don't need to knock his
Decapitate the
teeth
guy. I don't
out. Like,
understand.
I just, like, I get that, you know, there's emotion in this game, and like, I've been in situations where, like, you get really irritated when someone does something because you're out there for like X amount of minutes, like, grinding it, and like, you know, the sport gets you competitive and all this stuff, but that's never okay to like potentially injure somebody.
Yeah, and
And
like
that's where I like draw the line. Like, I'll laugh about it because like I have no dog in this fight, and I'm just thinking like, wow, the Leafs better hope he doesn't get suspended because they're already hurting on defense. Like, and if you're justifying that for Rielly to do that, like, are you still justifying when now he's going to potentially be suspended for 6+ games? Like, and there, and Sheldon Keefe being like, oh yeah, that was appropriate. Like, really
I think
interested to know if you also think this suspension that's coming up will also be appropriate.
that was the wildest thing to me was like Sheldon Keefe coming out and being like, "That's fine." Like, I how is it? Like, how is it fine? Is it like you said, Jay? Is it gonna be fine when like Riley's suspended for 5 or 6 games? Like, is this gonna be like, oh well, he had to abide by the code, it was worth it? Like, I think the thing that like surprised me the most about this is waking up this morning. Like, I knew there was some of it out there last night, but then seeing people double down on like that's hockey. That's what that's how they're expected to respond when these things happen in hockey. And it's like, what? Like a bunch of like 8-year-old clowns? Like, I don't it's, how is that if and the thing that kills me too, to also like add to that, if the roles were reversed, right? And this would have been Rielly taking that cross check to the face, how quick would everybody be saying, well, we got to keep that out of the game? Like, especially the Leafs fans. You know, so it's like you can't complain about the same thing that we often see. I mean, not to make digs at Leafs fans, but there's always something, and there's always something the Leafs fans are like, this needs to be, our team needs to stop being a target. And then when they're the ones out being goons, it's a different story. And I think it intrigues me. I just don't understand how anybody could be like, this is fine. This is-
I have a question proposed to you guys. Do you feel like okay, well, let's take it back a couple of notches. If you were a Senators fan, just imagine if you were. I would never be, but just imagine if you are. Or, your respective team, and that player takes a slapper to the empty net. Like, what is your reaction to that? Are you condoning that, or are you being like, that's a bit too much?
I think it depends how heated the game was. Because if it's just like, if it's like a blowout game, it's like, all right, you're doing too much. Come on. Like, but if it's
that's
like
true. Yeah.
if it's really close and then, it's heated and, each team is taking all these cheap shots, this is kind of like a take that sort of statement. Like, we beat you. Now sit down.
yeah. Because like when this happened, there was only like 6 seconds left in the game, right? Like it was pretty much donezo for the Leafs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd be for it. If that was my team, I'd be like, yeah, you tell them to shut up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm like Nessa. Like, I feel like if it's like if it's a tight game and it's emotional and it's tensions have been high and I don't know what the score was in this one, to be honest, but
It was 4-3.
Oh, okay. So see, yeah, and something like that, I guess you would want that response, but I couldn't even in that kind of like tough put them into the wall like Rubbins racing thing. I couldn't like condone the high cross check. I would want a response for sure, but at some point I feel like it is a little bit on us to be like, well, that's what we're complaining about wanting out of the game. Like, we can't like be like, because that's what it feels like, right? It's like any other time we're complaining about these cheap shots, and then all of a sudden like Morgan Rielly does it, and then today it's like, that's fine. That's fine. We haven't been complaining about cheap shots in this game being a problem. Nope, that's totally okay. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
So, like, I think I could go either way with it. Like me personally as a player, I would never see myself like doing that. I feel like it's a little over the top. But if so, I saw some folks, and I don't know like rivalry relationships for the Leafs fan base, but people are saying, "Oh, this is great for the rivalry." So I'm like, okay, if there's like some kind of like past history, like, you know, uh situation with them, like, and especially because they were in Ottawa, like I can kind of see him playing it up for the fans, like, and I'm okay with that. Like,
It's not just that, Jay. I was watching the Steve Dangle clip, and he was saying that they were in Ottawa, and like 70% of the fans in
oh
attendance
yeah,
were
yeah, yeah.
Leafs fans. So
That's bad.
he was like he's doing this for the fans. Like
Oh
they're
yeah.
basically like,
Welcome to
trash talk.
Ottawa, Leafs fans.
Yeah.
This is for
Now
you.
shove
Okay,
it.
so that brings me to my second question. I kind of feel like, how is this any different than Selly's? Especially like one in particular that came to
The
mind
showboating, you mean?
when, yeah, where they're just like, oh, that's so unsportsmanlike. Oh, that's, how is that any different than like when Austin Matthews scores and then he like goes and towards the audience and he's just like, come on, regardless of whether it's like in his home rink or elsewhere, like how is that not seen as unsportsmanlike? Like we advocate for that, like, yeah, show us some personality, do a celebration, we live for the celebrations. Like when someone doesn't celebrate, we're like, like, come on, do something like over the top to celebrate that you score. Now, as someone who plays in net, I hate seeing sellies. I love doing sellies when I'm a player. Not that I have anything. I'm just usually like mesmerized that I actually scored. But it is frustrating to see someone like being like, just like scored right on you. You're just like,
Neener,
shut
neener.
up, shut up. But like, I'm not saying don't do sellies, but I am saying like, yeah, it is bothersome. So how is it any different?
You don't have the inherent risk of injuring somebody when you celebrate. And if you do, you're celebrating like way bad. Like
There's
you
no
should
risk.
you should
There's no
not celebrate that
True,
hard.
But
there's no risk in hurting anyone on a slap shot to the empty net.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you were talking about the Morgan Rielly shot. Wait,
No.
no,
no. I'm comparing this to why are people upset when I kind of look at it and be like, how is it any different when someone scores and then we have sellies? It's very prominent and
no.
very well received, and people look forward to it every time someone scores. And the only difference is there's no goalie in front of the net.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, how dare you score? And then like make a big deal about it with how you scored. I'm upset.
Right, and I mean, like, I would imagine that for most of these players, I mean, yeah, you probably are like, okay, it's an empty net, like, yeah, I think a lot of people chalk that up to like a guaranteed goal, but we've seen players miss like the wide open net, like plenty of times, right? So it's like, I don't know, a goal is a goal. Like, why would you not? I think want to celebrate that in some capacity. What I thought you were saying is like, how is Morgan Rielly cross-checking him in the face any different from a selling? It's like.
That's exactly what I just said, Drew. That is exactly what I just said.
It's like you might be celebrating way too hard.
Oh my god.
I was like, wait.
Reel it in.
Well,
Jay's gone full goon.
I'm glad Nessa's brain didn't go into a roller coaster loop when I was talking and go in the opposite direction. Let's talk about the Sportsnet panel though, because
But do we
I
have
was
to? I'm just kidding.
well, we've already stepped into the pool, so okay. I don't know like everybody on the panel. I know Jen, and then I know Kevin Bieksa, and I've seen the other two. Do you guys know their names off the top of your heads? Okay. So the
I should, but I
panels,
don't.
yeah. So the panel on Sportsnet, they were talking about this, and Kevin Bieksa saying, like, don't cross check the dude in the face, and I think I recall, Jen was also saying like the same thing. But the moment one of the other guys mentioned, this is probably going to be bad for the Leafs, because as we see, Morgan Rielly is the Department of Player Safety has come out and said there's going to be a in-person hearing, and as we know from past incidents that have had consequences, this means there's a potential that it's going to be more than 5 games, which I saw people comparing it to the David Perron suspension that was handed out a few months back, and he got 6 games. And if you rewatch that clip, pretty much like different scenario, it's during the game and someone goes down, and Perron's like, oh, I don't like that, and you're the first person I see closest proximity to my guy, so I'm gonna lunge and knock you in the face with my stick. It okay, caliber of player, I feel like this is where people, I don't like the politics behind this, like, oh, but like if you suspend superstar player X amount of games, oh, that's like dictating play and like hurt the league, blah blah blah. Like, I'm pretty sure really Greg's face is going to be more hurt than this league in the long run if you continue to allow certain things like that to weigh in. So I'm really hoping that it's going to be like at least 6 games, because as they started talking about it, they immediately started bringing up the exact things I just said. They're like, oh, whoa, 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 like it's getting close to the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't give a shit.
Right, right. If it's unnecessary, if you're doing too much, you're doing too much. Like, that's just. And the thing that kills me is like the justification is like, oh well, there 6 seconds left, they didn't call a penalty, and he was he didn't go down the tunnel and blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, well, what is that standard anyway? Like, if we didn't call it, so it's totally fine. Like, how many times are we all collectively like talking about how terrible the officiating is? Stuff not getting called, or calls getting called late, or blatant just missed calls, stuff that maybe it's too soft and it's makeup penalties, that game management BS. Like, what kind of standard is that to even say, well, there was no call, so it's fine? No, what? No. Like we just said, like, there's 1,001 ways to show that emotion. Don't go over there and like, hey, you hungry? You want a snack on a stick? Like, that's wait. Do better.
I was really irritated when I watched this little clip of the panel talking about it, because they're pretty much defending the whole thing, like, oh, you have to expect the reaction if you do something like that. This is unacceptable. And everything that they're saying that they should be saying towards what Morgan Rielly did as a bad thing, they're saying about Grieg and the empty netter that he shot instead. So the irony, it's
I did notice that too. They're like,
yeah.
well, it's so classless of Greg to do that, but maybe Rielly next time, keep the stick down a little lower. But
I mean,
whoa,
I'm
let's
not mad
not
at
do
what he.
6+ games.
Yeah, they were like, I'm not mad at what Rielly did. The stick did get a little high, but it's acceptable. Like, what are you talking about? The fact that the stick was high is so unacceptable.
That's like what you like. I don't understand. Like, you're just like, it's you can't take it. I don't know anything about Greg as a player. Maybe that's the
He's
only
a
slap
pest,
shot.
apparently. He's like,
Well, maybe that's the only clap bomb that he'll ever score in his life. I like, we don't know that.
That'd be a pretty epic one if that's his only one.
Maybe this was his. He had his 8 Mile moment. He has one chance, his one opportunity to seize everything he ever wanted, and he got
Okay,
it.
Drew.
I'm just saying. I just, I didn't get the memo that if you're going to score an empty net goal, that it's only supposed to be like a little gentle love tap into the net and act like you didn't do anything. Yeah.
Anyways,
That's part of the code.
Right.
That's chapter something sentence whatever in the code book. Can you
Oh.
read that chapter?
I think my copy was missing that page.
there's something about the internet that's really entertaining for me. At Sens on Reddit posted this graphic. Is that and captioned it a memo to the league from the Toronto Maple Leafs, as if this was an official statement from the Leafs. It's not, but it's funsies. So the title of it says, "How to score an empty net goal in the NHL to avoid hurting our fifis." And it's just like 5 rules on how to avoid hurting the team's feelings. Don't score an empty net goal on them because that's unacceptable. It's too much. They can't handle it. They'll cry.
These bullet points on this list are so hilarious.
They're so fun. Okay, just an example to the listeners. Number 1 says, calmly and gently guide the puck into the net. The utmost care should be taken to avoid propelling the puck into the net with too much force.
Tap it in. Just tap it.
just
No, you got to do all of them. You got to do all of them.
Gently push it in. Number 2 says, any post-goal celebration should be reserved, if not avoided altogether. Half a fist pump might be acceptable. A full fist pump, however, would be veering dangerously close to bad sportsmanship.
3/4 and you got it coming to you.
Don't let that fist go above your head.
Number 3. After the goal enters the net, it might be appropriate for the offending player to apologize to the visiting team for scoring, to assuage any sadness they might be feeling over their loss.
See, that in itself could just end up like making someone upset. Like if you didn't seem sincere enough with your apology, oh, you had it coming.
Sorry. Number 4. If any player for the opposition dares to break any of these rules, we reserve the right to immediately attempt to hospitalize them or potentially end their career. In the words of our coach Sheldon Keefe, this would be an appropriate reaction given the gravity of the offense.
So bad.
Number 5. These rules apply to all 31 teams in the NHL who are not the Toronto Maple Leafs. So much fun.
This is
gold. My God.
Good stuff.
Oh my God. Well, did we already talk about Steve Dangle's reaction?
A little bit. If you guys want to say any more, go for it. I think he has a level head for a Leafs fan.
I did watch his LFR. I thought it was a good response. Because anyone who's condoning that, well, he had it coming to him, like, but maybe next time I would have just like kept it down a little more. Like, I'm not saying for Grieg not to do the empty netter. I saw people being like, next time he should try a Michigan. Like, I would die laughing, but like, if you're like, come on, like, I remember one of the comments that I said was like, the Senators are not making the playoffs, This is just one of those things where they can like give something back to their fans, and like we know like the gravity of how like monumental it is for Toronto to one day see the cup again. And the Senators know it. And the Leafs, I didn't watch the game, but obviously the score speaks for itself. They lost. So yeah, the Senators know that it's going to irritate your fan base. And like, we always talk about, like, oh, this is such an emotional game. And like, putting such a importance behind the wins and everything like that. Like, so just people being like, oh no, this is not part of the code for you to, in that moment, to have taken the slap shot. Like, you guys are just like picking and choosing when to be triggered, that you have to face the song in a sense.
Is there a place where we can buy a copy of the code? Like, is that available on Amazon? I would like to.
No, you're supposed to know it as soon as,
format.
As soon as you know, as soon as you get into hockey. You're just supposed to know automatically what the code is.
Is
Can I
there
get an
like an
ebook
online
edition?
class
Audiobook, please. I got things to do.
certification?
What is it like? Squarespace? Well, not Squarespace. The other one, the one that they give the courses on. They have that.
Skillshare?
Skillshare.
There you
That's it.
go.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I knew it was like 2 S's. I was like, that's Squarespace. That's a website thing. Yeah, can we take a code class on Skillshare? I'd like to know.
Step by
just
step.
so we can all be updated.
Well, we know at least one rule in there. Just
If
one.
you're the
Oh,
Leafs,
to finish my thought, yeah, I'm fine with what Greg did. Like, if Morgan Riley wants to react in that fashion, like, you're gonna have to face the consequences. I'm not saying like don't be upset, but like obviously don't take the guy's face off. Like, how, like, at the end of the day, like, how is that gonna help your team? Is where I just, like, another thing that I was thinking about last night. Like, uh like a couple months ago when Blue Jackets Elvis Merzlikin, like, how does he get like shamed for, beating up Tom Wilson, and then his coach like throws him under the rug, throws him under the bus, but then we're saying like, yep, that makes sense for Riley to do that, that's appropriate. Like, oh my god, it's like I'm tired.
update Leafs fans. It's not whatever works for your team is whatever the league is supposed to put up with. So I do appreciate Dengle's rationality, because I will say, like, we get a lot of Leaf trolls on Canucks Twitter, and it was like wild. Like, it's just been weird to me, like people like justifying that this was okay. Like, I don't understand.
All right, this is a good segue since you brought up your beloved Canucks.
No,
because we always have to talk about them now, I guess. So we can talk about how the different reactions were for Morgan Riley and his assault on Grieg versus Zadorov and his assault on Lucas Raymond, and how immediate that response was from the, who was it, NHLPA?
yeah. It's just what I mean, because the hit on Zadorov, like, I do agree that it is, it head contact is what it looked like initially when I watched the game yesterday. Just not even like shoulder to head, just kind of like whoop headbutt. I think that's like, clear, like that's a high shot that gets a suspension. The rapidness to which that was delivered, as compared to watching a guy blatantly come over and just get a stick in somebody's face, and they're like, we need more evidence here. And it's like, was it still not like high shots?
I don't think it was need more evidence. Like I was saying earlier, I'm fine with them taking a little bit more time to decide, because it is I don't want to say it doesn't happen as much, but it is a situation where like a head contact to, like, on Lucas Raymond, like we can go back to when Eric Carlson like had contact with I don't recall who the player was, and I think he got like 2 games. So it's something that they've seen often enough that there doesn't need to be like further discussion. But I think a situation like, and I can't recall how long it took for them to decide for David Perron, but I think I want to hope that, and there's a lot of inconsistencies with the Department of Player Safety, so we have to also keep that in mind. But I would hope in the future that if something like this comes about again, they don't need to spend as much time. It'll be like much quicker.
Yeah,
That's my hope. But
that's
you
kind of
know,
my thing, is like, is it not in the essence of the, like, is it not head contact? So if we've already had similar situations where we have delivered a suspension for similar contact and similar incidents, like the same thing with the Zadorov, why don't we already have this base? And that comes down to, we've talked about it before, the NHLPA and their inconsistencies, and the NHL officiating, and sometimes the gimmicks of that. if we already know that, okay, like that kind of head contact was Zadorov, that's a 2-gamer, and we've suspended people before for this for 5 or 6 games for a similar incident, how come we don't already have that base? Because they were both egregious plays, right, in their own like environment. Like Zadorov hits who was Lucas Raymond up high. Rielly goes after, seeks retribution on Grieg. So it's still it's just weird to me that that how we're handling it already isn't like we've penalized this stuff before, So like where is the notion of consistency across the board, or just being able to say like, hopefully with the in-person hearing, I know that kind of gives way the fact that this probably is going to be a big suspension coming down, but how does the league not like preemptively look at that, be like, we're definitely, something is going to come out of this the same way that something came out of the Zadorov situation. I'm not trying to say, I definitely don't want to say like if the Canucks are being victimized here. I'm just saying like these are both high hits. You know what I'm saying? Like, so how can we, there has to be some sort of like, if we're going to get high hits out of the game, then where is that standard? Where does NHL, PA, and all that start?
I think you kind of, like we've mentioned it already here about the inconsistencies with Department of Player Safety. And I think it is the fact that they have to be more consistent. And that's what we're kind of seeing here, where you already have evidence from past things. Like a little bit of my concern, especially with what we talked about with the Sportsnet folks, voicing their opinions and how they're like, oh wait, but playoffs are around the corner. Like don't give him more than 2. Like I don't give a shit, and I feel like I don't want that to be coming into play for why it's gonna take longer for them to decide. But given the inconsistencies with Department of Player Safety, like they're gonna have to kind of show us that like that is not weighing in as much. But for the time being, like I'm okay that it's not like a swift, automatic six games, because they're still not as consistent as we want them to be.
You vibe with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about some fun stuff now. Can we?
I thought we were having fun.
You could be having fun. Talking about head injuries is not a fun topic.
I mean, I had a lot of fun imagining that Michigan on them.
That's hilarious. Yes, that was laugh. So we'll stay on the Canucks because they have a couple of things that they're doing that are pretty cool. Always have one of the best, or one of my favorite logos that they do for special events. For Black History Month, they have the Black Excellence Night logo, which has the green, red, and yellow colors with the flying skate logo. Everyone chooses this logo, which is really funny to me. Not a lot of people are choosing their primary logo with the orca, but I don't know, man. There's just something about the artists that they choose. They just know what they're doing.
They do. That's like one of the. To be honest, that's what I say. Like this team could go over 82, and I would still love them because they do such a great job with this kind of stuff. Like they do such a good job at sourcing the right people to come in and get involved, and it's like really it's a core part of the team for the players to be involved in these kinds of efforts too. And Vancouver just does. I mean, they do such a great job. This Black Excellence Night logo with the skate. I mean, that little bit of green. Like just for those couple extra details, it's a phenomenal look, and I can't say, I know I'm biased, but I can't say that I've ever been disappointed by any of their specialty jerseys, just because they take time to handle it, I think, as sensitively and as inclusively as they need to, and it always comes together really, really cohesively and just knock it out of the park every time. The artists do such a great job with these.
Oh, I should mention that this design was made by Nasheka. I hope I pronounced that properly. I haven't really read up on her, but she did a great job on these. Like the patterns, the meanings behind them, the subtleties. Like, I don't know, man. I'm such an art nerd. I love this stuff. All the details.
Yeah, the colors on it are so vibrant. I just, my eyes just go all over the place because I just want to like look at all the little details because it's just really gorgeous.
Great.
I love the shout outs of the the fabrics and the textures, all of that little the little minute designs that just yeah, they always I always get so stoked. I wish these jerseys weren't like $800 at the team store because I would own I would own so many.
You're not getting any of this from AI.
I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. Another thing I wanted to talk about the Canucks doing for Lunar New Year. Okay, they had like probably the best Lunar New Year logo that I've seen. Like, we'll talk about the Sharks later. I like it too, but the golden dragon on the Canucks one, mwah, masterpiece. Loved it. So they did a collaboration with Super BOOMi. I guess it's a children's TV show of some sort made by, I want to say, Up Studios. I think I looked that up. And they have this whole little animation short. It's about a minute. Well, it's like 4 minutes long. I watched it this morning. I love this because for those of you who don't know, Vancouver is probably the animation capital of Canada, or at least one of them. Disney's up there. They got Sony Pictures up there, and all these different TV show studios. Which is why I was in Vancouver. This is like my two worlds colliding, so I'm gonna geek out for a little bit. So I don't know anything about this show, but it's cute. Like, this little bear-looking character. I guess this is BOOMi. He gears up and plays a hockey game with like these robot versions of the 5 All-Stars the Canucks had. And he has friends like a zebra and a cat or of some sort that are cheering him on, and they're going up against his nemesis. I don't know, it's so cute. But the animation is like pretty good. And I was looking at the credits. There's only 2 animators on this thing for 4 minutes. That's a lot of animation. I don't know, man. If you guys haven't watched it, it's really cute. I would recommend just because it's fun.
I seen this on YouTube last night and meant to check it out, and then I never got around to doing it. So I'm like just kind of like watching it now. It's adorable.
It's so cute.
I wish I would have checked it out last night. I love that just goes back to like what we were talking about. Like the Canucks do such a good job at honoring the heritage and the the people that the specialty jerseys and the warm up jerseys and these nights are for. It's so cool, and I'm such a big sucker for anything they do that is Canucks for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to point out though that the studio that was hired to do this, I think, is based in China. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because one, Lunar New Year, China makes sense. They have a huge Chinese community there. But 2, was it because outsourcing is cheaper than paying for it like in-house? Like, there's so many studios in Vancouver that could have done this. But it is what it is. I don't know if you've seen the sticks that they're using in the thing, the details with the dragon design on there, on the blade. So good.
Yes.
Okay.
That Lunar New Year logo is just so sick, man. The dragon wrapped around the skate just like turned out so incredibly well.
I wanted to ask about, because I saw while we were watching a little bit of it, the logo with the Canucks orca, and then there were like clouds that were put on the bottom. Is that like the secondary design for that jersey? I didn't get to look at the whole thing. Do you know, Drew?
I don't. The only one that I know that they did was the dragon.
Okay.
You're talking about
because I thought that was super cute with
It
the
is
little
really
cloud
cute,
design at the bottom. Like, I would want that like as a shirt.
Maybe
Like,
it
that would be
the
so
patch
cute.
one
Yeah,
day.
that's what I was thinking. Maybe there was a secondary patch on the shoulder.
I'll have to look at those again.
But I do want to shift gears though.
Fine.
And talk about the Nashville Predators one, because this was actually my favorite so far of the Lunar New Year designs with like, if you look at the hairs that are coming off of the dragon, it's just like the subtle color changes. Like, I just think that like that little detail is so vibrant and fun. And I was actually looking to see if they were selling any of these on shirts, because I like really wanted to get one.
I love the detail in the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the way it just kind of like plays cohesively into the whole vibe of the jersey. These are sick, and this is pretty cool for Nashville too, to do something like this, especially with the Asian Pacific Islander community. Like that's I love that. That's so. It's not to harp on Nashville. It's not the market you would expect these kind of things to, I
Right.
think, pick
Yeah.
up steam in. Yeah. So it turned out awesome. I seen these in a YouTube video I think last night, just kind of like a like a little YouTube short or something. I was like, what the Preds got going on? Like those are some pretty dope Lunar New Year threads.
I love the direction the NHL is going with these designs. They just keep getting better every year. Not to say that the first ones were bad or anything. It's just that you just see an improvement coming.
I think
the
they
years
get
go.
better too as they bring in like those like the specific artists and the people that are like really in tune to the culture they're trying to capture. I think that adds so much more to the art. I personally, Jay, you pointed out like the hair, but I love that they gave the dragon like the saber tooth, like the Pred's teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the fact that they kind of like took the obviously the Predators normal logo, and then they incorporated the fact that this year's the year of the dragon. And like I can't think off the top of my head, like I know, like with this year with the Canucks, and they they put the dragon, and then they incorporated like the Canucks like text into it and stuff. But I felt like this was a unique take on it, to like you can still identify it as the Predator's primary logo, but now it's got that element where it's like brought in that dragon overlay. Like I thought like that was super fun.
Yeah.
Like I kind of feel like I would sort of want to see that in some way. I don't know how you would do it, like with the Sharks logo this year. Like I'm in love with it. I might end up spending way too much money if I
That red
pre-order some
hoodie?
of this stuff.
The red hoodie is clean.
I was actually looking at the scarf. I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm going to get a new scarf. Like it just I was like, that's so pretty.
Their scarves have been really good this year. I would even get it as a hat. Like, this logo is really good.
I wanted a hat too, but remember last year with the Seals incorporation, and I got a hat and it doesn't fit right on my head. That's my first thought when I was like, oh, that'd be a sick hat. That will look odd on my head.
Did you see the secondary logo? It's just the fin. So good.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, I think I might need to get something.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
I love the hat, but this tee with the dragon and then the secondary logo, the fin in it, that is so sick. Like I might have to add a shark shirt to the collection because that's a pretty rad shirt.
I highly recommend supporting our little team.
So adorable.
The Sharks, I will say this every time we talk about it, but their merch, they have stepped up their game so much this year. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, I don't know this red shirt though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's so good.
This is also good.
So good.
Yeah, that's the shirt that I was looking to get.
The waves.
I don't know if I'm gonna get a hoodie just because I have so many freaking hoodies, but
I need more. I need to switch mine out.
But the shirt with the fin on the front, and then the design in the back, like that was the one that I was looking at to get on top of like getting a scarf.
I don't even know which one I like more, the one in black or the one in red, because teal and red work so well together, but they have like the white waves behind the fin on the black one that makes it pop out really nice.
I feel like I need to get a red one, so then this time next year I can wear it, because as I showed earlier, I'm wearing the Canucks one from last year and it's in red, because red is good luck for Lunar New Year. And if you guys so gong hei fat choi to everybody who listens to this podcast, because Lunar New Year was on Friday. And if you haven't had your noodles yet, I highly recommend you get a bowl of noodles, because in Chinese culture and extended to possibly other cultures, that's kind of like the thing that you do for long life. you have your noodles. So
Because they're
I had
long,
my noodles
long
yesterday.
noodles for
Yes.
long life.
You got to eat lots of noodles for long life.
That's fun. I just wanted to comment real quick on the waves that they use on the design for the sharks. I know they're waves, but something about it kind of reminds me of like Dragon Ball Z clouds.
I was thinking
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I like it. It's cute. Thanks,
Mhm.
sharks. Thanks for giving us something to look forward to.
Okay, now we're gonna make Drew tell us all the stuff that we've been waiting for you to tell us, and we just haven't got around to doing it. So take it away, Drew.
Oh yeah. Um. So, well, it's been about a month now. It'll be a month on my birthday, actually, on Wednesday. Um. I went to the ECHL All-Star event up in Savannah, Georgia. It was hosted by the Savannah Ghost Pirates, um, which I've worn their merch for like a couple weeks now on the pod. Got some pretty cool stuff happening in Savannah. This was the first year. This is what Savannah's second, third year in the ECHL. It was their first time hosting the All Star event for the league. First time I've ever been in an in-market arena. First of all, what a beautiful, beautiful barn that they have for the CCHL club in Savannah. Like big climate pledge arena vibes. Like what I've seen online, like kind of evokes the same sort of like atmosphere as what they got going on in Seattle. Um, but I had a pretty good time. You know, I went to FanFest on the 14th of January and was at FanFest for a couple hours. Got to talk to the, it was Bowdens, which is the captain of the Savannah Ghost Pirates. Got to talk to a couple of guys that unfortunately were cut from the roster the day of the All-Star game. So I talked to a couple of those guys on Sunday and spoke to some fans. Um, and then Monday was the game. The January 15th was the game and the skills competition. So the ECHL does a kind of an interesting format. They play like 20 minutes of 5-on-5, and then they do, a first set of skills comps, then they play another 20 minutes of 5-on-5. They do more skills comps, and then they end with like 20 minutes of like 3-on-3 play for the last final period of the All-Star competition. So it's an interesting format. There's a lot crammed into like that 3.5 hours of general hockey. Um, we had one, the Jacksonville Icemen had one representative, Brendan Harris, who put up a 13.39 in the fastest skater competition, came in third. Spoke to him after the All-Star game, got a good interview with him. It was actually the only interview I've gotten to conduct with an Iceman player. um, but yeah, it was a good time. It was the first time I've gotten to work an event like this, and I think what really, to be honest, what made it worth it was getting my picture with the Stanley Cup. Because we had the All-Star game here in 2022. It was rescheduled from the COVID year that Jacksonville was supposed to host it. But I never got a chance. I wasn't a member of the press then, so I didn't get a chance to get my picture with the cup. By the time I stood in line, the line literally wrapped completely around the arena here in Jacksonville. So I got to kind of like, walk around the line and like look at the cup, but actually getting to stand next to it and get a picture with it was like the highlight. It made everything else that I put up with before and after All-Star game worth it. So yeah, it was a good time. It was first time I've ever gotten to work this kind of event. It's always a good time to show up to these things, but when you get to do it from it really, I would like to say do it from the press table, but we didn't have seats. The league did not accommodate us seating when we went, so it was nice to be there and still be a member of the press to kind of get to look at things from a different angle.
Here's one seat you can share.
Yeah, we showed up. We were expecting to have seats, and we showed up, and they were like, "You guys don't have seats. You have to find somewhere to sit." So thankfully, there was, the people said it was sold out. It wasn't sold out, so we still had some like bar seats available to overlook the ice. We did get a good view, but yeah, we weren't put in like a press box or anything, which was an interesting experience in Savannah for us.
They said you're not
Do
special.
you
Essentially.
do you feel like there was anything that you observed from how they do their All-Stars that maybe the brother factions of the professional sports, namely AHL, NHL, could kind of incorporate, or is it kind of pretty similar to how the rest of them kind of handle it?
I'm sorry, the Canucks are still playing. I thought we just lost. Actually, I think we did, but I don't know if it's just a highlight package or not. So I was sitting here in agony for a second. I will say this: I don't like the ECHL format. And this was something that like we had sort of talked about amongst ourselves as ECHL writers. It feels like there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of busy working bits to it. I do think it's interesting that the host team automatically gets to play. So like the way the ECHL does it is the host team. So it was in Savannah. So the Ghost Pirates played the All-Stars from the rest of the league. I think that's interesting. And this was a bad year, honestly, for Savannah to do that because Savannah's had a rough year and they got worked pretty hard over in that All-Star event. But oh no, we're not losing. It's still 2-2. Oh, it's in overtime. Okay. Um, just I don't like the ECHL event. It feels like it just feels really crowded, right? Like like at least with the NHL, you have the All Stars competition. You can kind of focus on that. There's not a lot of pieces being having to be set up on the course while the clock still runs. So I do like having the event and the game separate. It feels a little less catastrophic. Like stuff could go really bad really quick in any way. But it is interesting that the host team gets to host, and all of their players get to show up to partake in that. I do kind of like that feel to it. Like that is an interesting sort of. It's not all stars versus all stars. It's like, can this whoever this team is like are they capable of beating the best of the best, or at least who we have to offer as the best? So I I don't know if I would like NHL, AHL is something that we talked about as far as ourselves, like ECHL writers. I don't know if any other league should try to adopt necessarily the setup, but an interesting sort of way to do it with the hometown crowd. I think it makes it. I think it helps gets the fans invested.
I feel like that could be beneficial from like the fan perspective. And then as you were talking about, I was thinking about like I would have a good time with people being subjected to having to watch the start. I would get a kick out of that. But then also like all the all stars from other teams would probably be able to kick our ass. So there's a lot of potential there for the fans, and I guess depending on which team ends up getting to host that year, it could be really nice or it could be quite laughable. So.
Yeah, it was. I felt. I mean, like I felt really bad. I can't even remember how many goals there was like in this All Star game, but it was absurd. Like it was ridiculous, and Savannah got walked all over. And I'm like, what a great thing for the city of Savannah. But when your team is struggling, this isn't probably the way that you want. Like this was broadcast on the NHL Network, so it's probably not the way that you want your team to be marketed. So like a bigger than average hockey audience is just letting them get absolutely torched at the All Star game. But yeah, I will say I think Savannah is one of those markets, like we were talking about, like Nashville, pretty untraditional hockey market, but arguably more diehard than the Iceman fans, and that says something because we have some pretty like down for the cause Iceman fans. They love that team up there. They are ecstatic about the Ghost Pirates, and Andy Kaufman and Zoyer Sports are doing so much to put like so much good entertainment value in everything. They sing a sea shanty before they come onto the ice. Like, I was making that joke when my mom was like, what do you think they skate out to? And I was like, watch it be a sea shanty. And it literally is. It's like, but everything, top to bottom with the team, it's just like entertainment values 1,000. They have cannons. They didn't shoot the cannon. I don't know if the cannon shoots. I was kind of hoping we would get a cannon shot, but everything about Savannah, like you would have if I would have been a Ghost Pirates fan, I would have wanted my boys to have I think more of a fighting chance in front of the NHL Network. But it was good. It was good fun.
Great. I love that. You want to tell us about your newly acquired to this pro sports fan platform thing?
Sure. Uh, to be honest, of everything that okay, so like when we sit down, we do the podcast. I'm still kind of nervous when we do this every week, but now I've been doing it, and I'm not conscious that I'm conscious that it's not like we're not doing this in real time. So now I'm live streaming on PSF, and I'm a little bit of a train wreck on the live streams because I overthink the fact that I'm live. You know, like it gets in my head kind of. It's like a different sort of but I'm having good fun. I've only done it for Thursday's game this weekend with the two matinees early. It was kind of just super busy to be able to provide coverage. Um but we're doing a pregame. So me and I have a co-host for now. It's kind of we just kind of been like test running it and getting some of the technical difficulties out of the way. But I have a co-host, Ray, who is we're going to be doing pregame and postgame coverage. So we start like 30 minutes before game drop, and then at the end of the third period. And we're going to be doing a weekly show that's going to be live, hosted on the app once a week. We're still like figuring out a name because PSF wants to do branding and merch and all of that for the show, which is really cool. Um, it's a new up and coming. It's PSF. It's a new app. It was actually a local company based out of Jax Beach. They reached out to me and asked if I wanted to if I'd be interested in doing some Canucks media casting stuff. Um, and to be honest, anytime I can cover the NHL, I've been following this league, the NHL in particular, since I was 8. So even like in terms of like ECHL coverage and still like being an Iceman fan and knowing the team, like I just know more about the NHL and the storylines surrounding it. So I was pretty pumped to get the opportunity to. I don't really like aspire to be the broadcast sports guy. Like I don't really want to be on like I would rather just research the stuff really, to be honest, for other people to write. Like I don't even really want to write it. I just want to research it. um but I it's been fun. It's a different opportunity to get more Canucks coverage out there, and hopefully open up more opportunities to do the same, kind of expand my NHL resume, because that's ultimately that's the game plan. Don't want to be an ECHL journalist for the rest of my hockey journalism career. So, yeah, they found me at the right time, and I gotta get over the nerves. I gotta get out of my own head a little bit.
Get there. You'll get there. I can understand it being a little like intimidating. Um like to be almost 2 years into this podcast, and I can still remember when like me and Nessa first hopped on, and like the amount of editing we've had to do to like cut out all of our like how do we transition from this, and like I think I'm like the amount of times that I've cut out like my rambles because that's what I end up doing. Either it depends on whether I'm super excited or I'm nervous. It all kind of sounds the same, but then I can tell when it happens. I can
Yeah,
tell the difference of why it's happening. But like I so like I caught a little bit of one of your streams, and I think it's like a cool opportunity. Like I think there's a market for people who just kind of want to have a place to hang out and like interact with people. And I think it's great to kind of have just like an everyday fans doing it versus like you've got the people who have like, oh, I was a pro hockey player for X amount of years. And it's like, while it's great to kind of get their perspective on stuff, like there's still like that you feel like a division between you, like, oh, I can't possibly hang with somebody who's like I'm just a fan, you like lived this whole thing, versus someone who you could just end up like bumping into on the street and just be like become a friend. And just the way that like the internet and social media has kind of like ingrained itself into our lives, like I think that'll be fun for folks that um maybe even just people who are just ecstatic to find other people, or maybe other people who are shy about I'm new to the sport, or I generally like I don't go out of my way to put myself in these environments. Like I think there's an opportunity for all that. And Did you know your co-hosts prior to both of you coming
No,
on to this?
no. I've seen Ray's like like tweets and stuff on the timeline kind of get circulated and just general Canucks like discourse, but um Thursday's pregame before the Boston game that the Canucks played in Boston was my first time I'd ever actually interacted with Ray. Um, so it was, which I think also played into the nerves a little bit too, because like by post game, of course you have like all the post game emotions, and then like if you're a Canucks fan, you're like me, your brain's racing 100 miles an hour a minute because you're like, oh man, like we're dropping the ball at like the most inopportune time of the season. Which, by the way, we did just win in overtime 3-2, so I feel a little bit better getting out of this weekend with a win. Um, yeah, so it's just like it's the first time I've ever done anything live streaming. Like I've never live streamed before, so I get just the same way I have to I'm not a very good public speaker. Like that's why I write, because I articulate better when I have the moment to sit down like in my own solitude and get everything organized and out the way I would like it. So I just kind of have to I think I have to remind myself to slow down and just be in the moment and
Easier said than done.
yeah, and just kind of give myself like breathing room. Like it's a very like a new co-host I've never talked to, like a new like live streaming format, and it's been exciting, it's been fun, and I'm hoping that as the app continues to grow, there's still some like technical bugs and stuff too. So after the app figures it out and we get more of a following into like the Canucks community there, that it'll grow and hopefully sort of take off organically, because it really is like one of the things we're going to be doing is doing live streams as we watch the game along with the fans. So I'm ready for that kind of opportunity. I think that would be fun, just to get riled up with everybody while we're while something big's happening. So um I'm hoping it's a exciting opportunity to do some stuff that I don't really get a chance to do. And if I stick like this first like contract that I've got with PSF is through at least to the end of the playoffs this season. So if I find out that like man, I just can't get out of the nerves, or I can't like stop psyching myself up, it's just not my thing. Like I don't have to feel pressured to go into it, but I'm approaching it with an open mind, and hopefully it's a good next stepping stone on the path of hopefully doing something with the Vancouver Canucks one day. I mean, like I would be lying if I told you guys that wasn't like obviously the dream. So
Well, I commend you for stepping out of your comfort zone and trying this out. Because yeah, I think I'd be nervous too, especially if like you don't jive with your co-host. Like I think that would be difficult to, because there are definitely some fans where I'm like, wow, we would just like, what are you saying?
yeah,
Which maybe could like be good, but like in another way, but not necessarily the way that I would want to like project myself in that type of situation. So, but you know.
it's and when it's like it kind of like it's all like left to us too to do. So it's kind of like just not really even knowing like they want us to just get on there and live stream, but it's like okay, so like should we structure the shows, or should we have should we kind of do it more like a structured podcast, or is it just like by the seat of our pants sort of? So it's a lot of nerves, a lot of new stuff to adjust and get used to, like it's not only am I learning the platform, I'm also learning my co-host, like you said. So it's a little bit of like straight to the wolves, but we'll figure it out.
um Nessa, do you have anything to say about that before we move on to the next thing?
No. I think, I mean, it's
Words of wisdom to Drew.
easier said than done, but I think it's important to remember, especially when it's live, that I mean, you're lucky that you have a co-host. So kind of just think of it like you're hanging out and just talking hockey like you usually do. That usually helps calm you.
Yeah, that's true. I need to approach it, I guess, like I did with my interviews, and just like we're just two people chatting about hockey, because that helped
Yeah.
meld some of my nerves away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like I remember when me and Nessa like when we got Curtis to come on. I still remember that like discussion, and Nessa was like, "Oh, I'm so nervous," and I was trying to like just he's just a human. He's just it's gonna be fine. Like, I mean, I have to tell myself that too, like leading up to it, being like, don't put him on a big pedestal of like, oh, he's a pro hockey player. But like, he's just a dude that's coming on. He's gonna talk about inclusion and things like that. We're not gonna be like, oh, like this stat, blah blah blah. You're like, we're just talking, And I was really happy that Curtis was just such a great guy. We talked like for probably a good chunk even after the hour and some change that we had him on, and he's just like a genuinely cool guy that like it with other hockey players, like I feel like maybe that won't be the case if we ever were to have another pro hockey player on, like, and that is like one of my biggest fears. Like, it would just be like some dude giving like pucks in deep type of reactions, and I'd be like, wow, like I don't want to be here anymore.
I don't know what to do with that answer, but thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just wanted to like chill and hang out, and you're just answering things like you do on the broadcast, and that's oof. But
You'll be fine.
tell us a little bit about the mentorship that you just finished like a few weeks back.
Yeah, the last piece went out February 6th, I think it was. Which we were talking about interviews. I interviewed Taylor Heisey of the PWHL Minnesota for this piece. So talking about like being starstruck and a little bit of like, oh my god, this is really happening. Yeah, that was like one of those moments for me. But like Nessa said, I guess this is like I need to listen to my own advice, because my interview with Taylor, as much as I was like just like starstruck of like you are one of the women in this sport to talk to right now. That's at the end of the day is what it was. It was just like two people just talking hockey. And I spoke to Taylor. I spoke to USA's hockey, the director of player development, Roger Grillo, with USA Hockey. The piece started out as I wanted to explore it's an AI, in hockey, and how it was being used in sport, or how teams and leagues are planning to use it. But my mentor Salim, shout out to Salim with TSN, who is the like head chief Calgary guy for the Flames. He was excellent to work with the last 5 months. He has so much different newsroom experience, like New York Times experience, and just he's a nerd like me, and has worked in different like newsrooms, and just like a treasure trove of knowledge to soak up for 5 months. Um, and so me and him did some research. He even like talked to some of the people in Flames leadership about AI, and there just wasn't enough meat on the bone to work with in that regard. So him and I had come across some of the same content about like video games and VR and hockey. And we decided to go down that rabbit hole. And one of the big things that's been getting a lot of traction in the last few months is something called Sense Arena, which is it's a VR platform that's actually designed to be a training aid for the pros. So the more research I did into that, I wanted to know if there was tangible results from people utilizing this new technology as part of their training regimen. And yeah, I spoke to, like I said, Roger Grillo of USA Hockey, Taylor Heisey, and not only did both of them have great points definitively after writing this piece, I can say that if you're a player and you have the means to add Sense Arena into your training routine, it is going to give you an edge. Now, I can't say for certain the data that Sense Arena has on their website is accurate. They wouldn't get back to me for comment for the piece. I don't know where that data is pulled from. But everything else out there and the anecdotal, like firsthand experience, like VR is that next mental training aid that's really having very clear effects out there when players take the ice. So, like the neck guard piece that came out in December, this was just another fun piece of research, and putting out hopefully some new information that makes people reanalyze, hockey and how they train mentally for it.
Yeah, when I saw your article, one of the things I was thinking about was a while back. I don't recall what platform it was on, or what sort of context it was situated around, but something about like athletes who are runners and are, you know, ascending to like the professional level to get into the Olympics and like things like that, and how they have like some technology that when they're going around the track, they can like observe their what do you call it? The like their stride,
Mm.
and they can break it down to like points that they can tweak to make them better and all that stuff. And while it's all wonderful, it's also, you know, that requires money and and access to those resources, and other countries that may not have that, you know, they're kind of like forced to, you know, work with what they've got. And makes me think about people who really have like only two brain cells and can't like think past like their own prejudice, where they're like, oh well, look how shitty this country is, like they, you know, like there's no market in whatever X country that's not like Canada, who lives breathes hockey, like, oh, there's no point in us like, you know, trying to grow the game there and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, there's like passion for it, it's just that they can't quite get to the level that we perceive as enjoyable or worthy of platforming, like the US, like Canada. It's just that all those countries that already have established themselves have access to this and have the potential to get better. And so maybe something like this VR thing, and again, going back to the example I mentioned with like track, like I'm not quite sure off the top of my head what the financial aspect of that type of resource is, but um something like this, where like a country that doesn't have year-round ice and like has an ability to still find ways to grow the sport and to give people the opportunity to enhance their skill set and like things like that. And so that's what I was thinking of when I was reading your article.
Yeah, and to say that like Grillo and Heisey both had really great, interesting points about that, in particular about growing the game. Where Grillo had a great point is that, you know, a lot of the young kids that are, because it is the young kids that are picking this up first rather than the older players. But a lot of these kids already have, like, you know, they already have Oculus headsets, which is what Sense Arena runs on, or they're close to getting all of the, you know, the doodads for something that you would need for VR. So it is very much like it grows the game. This is something that Roger Grill and I talked about, is it grows the game in that sense, right? Because like it sort of piggybacks a little bit off of the success of video games, which in and of itself is comes with its own demographics and users and that sort of thing. But then the one point that I really, and this is something that even Salim and I talked about after I did the interview, Taylor Heisey had a great point. Had this been around when people were on lockdown and during the pandemic, and like, you know, Heisey, she told me herself, she said, I don't live near a rink. I use this when I can't get my reps in at the rink like I would like, because it's just not always convenient for me to get down there. And she said it. She said if it had been around during COVID, it would have probably really taken off. And I thought that was a great point, because when the rinks were closed down, players couldn't get ice time. You know, we've seen how many videos we see of guys like out there on rollerblades trying to keep the legs good and find ways to get, you know, that mental muscle in line. It really does. It not only does it provide like an avenue for alternative training and to help grow the game where, you know, ice isn't necessarily a traditional thing found in that demographic, but it helps grow the game too, from that where young kids might just come across it on the Oculus Quest and fall in love with the game, and then suddenly just this, you know, first time they have skates and a stick out there, they're leagues ahead of other players when it at least comes to the mental agility side of it, because they can make reads faster, they can make decisions faster. So I thought those were two, in the interviews, I thought those were two really interesting points, because I'm very inclined to agree with Taylor on that. I think that had we had Sense Arena around with a big platform dialed in the way that it's been dialed in over the years, I think way far more players would be, you know, have already adopted it, made it a part of their like normal training routine.
Lots of good points. Okay. Nessa, you want to mention anything, or should we move on to this last little bit?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Read the article.
Good in general, or are we going to talk about this last thing?
Up to you guys. Because I'm the one that has to edit it, so whatevs. I gotta do it before the game.
All right. Well, I guess that's it then. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and hopefully by the time people listen to this, the Niners have won.
I hope so.
And if not, well,
We'll be sad for the week. Don't mind us.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me.
Just gonna stuff my
All right,
feelings. I'm gonna eat my feelings.
I saw some folks like enter that I didn't recognize them as any of my neighbors, and then it hit me like, oh, people are probably having gatherings for this today.
Yep.
Well,
my boss, did I tell you? So my boss at my new job is like this older Filipina lady, and she's having a whole Super Bowl party with some friends, and they were telling me how, oh yeah, we're gonna do karaoke afterwards. Tradition.
Of course they will. Of course they will.
My neighbors are all this like they're all Latino, they're all from Mexico, and they have like a huge party like every weekend, but they have been like going hard at the setup like all night last night and all day today. So I'm sure if like but when I go outside, like when we're done, I'm sure it's gonna be popping off over there. I can't wait. They're such a lively bunch. I love my neighbors.
Go join the party. I'm sure they're gonna have great food.
Oh, for sure. I'm gonna walk up to the fence and be like, "Can I get a plate?"
Someone please take this poor little white boy in.
Hey, I've been learning Spanish now. They love it. Every time I walk to the fence, I'm like, "Hola, mi amigos," and they love it.
Just bring a bowl and be like, "Please, sir."
Nachos.
All right. All right. As always, I'm your host Jay.
I'm Nessa. Wow, that was abrupt.
I'm Drew.
We gotta get ready for this party.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.